Hello, everyone. This is Grace with Grace on a Journey Channelings. Welcome to the newcomer. And to those of you returning, welcome back. You are loved, valued, and appreciated. Let's take this opportunity to practice self-love and give yourself a hug. Gentle reminder. Have you balanced your chakras today? Let's get to the chakra chart list. The crown chakra. I know when my guidance comes from God. The third eye chakra. I see the direction He wants me to go in. I speak as a channeler. I love the opportunity to inspire. I can make a difference. I feel passionate. I have support. As I've shared with you before, there are no wrong or right answers. This is just you taking the time to work on your chakras. And the goal is to eventually have some type of routine in maintaining your wellness, as it will benefit you and all those that love you. Now, the channeled song that I heard earlier today is, I'm looking at the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. That Michael Jackson tune. And actually one of my favorite songs, because I love the message. And I feel that that message is beneficial to everyone. We should all take opportunities to do some introspection and fine-tune whatever areas in our lives that need some type of adjustment, in relation to development and just progressing in our journey. And I feel that channeled song goes along with today's title, which is Don't Forget the Children. There are so many topics going on around the world. And so much lack of balance. We've become a lot more selfish in our responsibilities. And it's affecting our children. In fact, I'll be daring enough to say that a lot of us spend more time than necessary on social media, entertaining others, or being nosy. Meanwhile, our children are being neglected. Meanwhile, there was nobody available to help your child do his or her homework. Meanwhile, there was a letter sent home, but you didn't look through the book bag, so because you was busy on Facebook. And this is why I always remind those that have been following me that balance is the fruit of the universe. And although we love to take it there and say, I could do what I wanted to, my response to that is, yes. You are adults, free to live your life any way you wish. But at whose expense? Now, I would like to share certain precautions that we should consider when raising children. Be careful what they see. All right? Because they're paying attention to mom and dad. They're paying attention to their interaction, their level of respect, their level of emotion, they're paying attention to their vices, those that have addictions. They're paying attention to those who can't stay out of jail. They're paying attention to those that don't come home at night because they have a different flavor of the week. They're paying attention. And your behavior is affecting them. Those of you that have heard it may affect them later on in life, because your behavior was modeled in front of them, so they may grow up and do the same thing. I want to tell you, it's not when they become adults that we will begin to be able to identify what's going on at home. Because many children, through their behaviors and how they interact with their classmates or their teachers, there are telltale signs of neglect, instability. In fact, programs have been created to assist these children. And they're prerequisites to becoming eligible for these programs begin with their lack of performance in their subject areas. They're struggling, they're failing, they're getting left back. And due to the benevolence of those that are very much underappreciated, the teachers and the guidance counselors, the faculties at large, they design programs where someone else has to come in and contribute quality time to your child because you don't have what? Time for your child. But you have time for Facebook. You have time for Instagram. You have time for happy hour. You have time to get down and dirty. Right? And the reason why I make a mention of this is because when I was going to the schools to sit down with these kids, what I would have to do is I'd have a caseload. And when I visit the school, I go to their classrooms and take them out. And all they needed was someone to talk to them about anything, or read them a book, or play a game with them, color with them, give them affirmation, right? And during that time that I was able to contribute in a way that benefited me as well. And I'll go into detail later on what I mean by that. But what I always noticed is the commentary that they would make about home. That was nothing that I ever brought up, because I am not their designated guidance counselor. I was just there to show my support, because clearly they were not getting enough attention at home. Many times it was related to domestic violence. Other times it was the number of children being cared for. Other times it's because someone went to jail. Someone died. Someone is sick. Whatever the case, it affects them. Not only when they become adults, it affects them during their childhood. And I wanted to bring that to everyone's attention, because sometimes we overlook that part. Sometimes we overlook the fact that they still are children, right? And they still need guidance. So there is still hope. And this is why I encourage parents that do not have their priorities straight. To begin to research, right? And I say this, I gotta be real with y'all. I say this with disgust, because sometimes it's the people who feel that they have the most connections, who feel that they are the most educated, who feels that they have all the resources available to be an overachiever. And those kids from those same households are broken. In fact, when they see you, I'm sometimes amazed by their level of, what's the word I'm looking for? Emotion, right? Like they've been waiting for you. Like, I'm just so happy to see you. And I used to love the fact that when I would leave, take them to class or whatever, they would always have a smile on their face. I never forgot that. they would always say, thank you. They would always say that they talk about me with their parents. And how some of the parents appreciated me. I say some because some of them had no commentary because they had no input and no conversation with their children. But you know what made me feel really good about that season is when the school year ended, I had feedback from parents and children about how they appreciated my efforts. But the cherry on top is to learn that just sitting down with them for 30 minutes, they noticed an improvement in their grades. Do you see what I'm saying? They need the motivation, right? They need to know somebody cares that I made 100%. Or somebody cares that, yes, I usually have a C when I take a math quiz. Today, I got a B. Right? And I feel like so many of us are just out of balance, people. I'm trying to say this to you as respectful as possible, but especially because it's the beginning of the school year and an opportunity to do better when it comes to the children, because they still need you. And they still see and recognize. I wanted to use the word efforts, but the word that's coming to me is interest. They see if you're interested in them. Do you know how that affects their self-esteem? How that would improve their confidence to know Mom really cares about me. She doesn't do this that much anymore. She changed. She sees me now. She gave me a hug just because I had to go there. I said I had to go there because some parents don't hug their kids. Some parents don't say, I love you. Some parents don't share pleasant memories with them. Memories of them being younger and how they used to be and how they've grown and how you're proud of them and so forth. You see, your effort is what is needed to make the difference. I don't know how to inspire you to the extent that you need it in order for you to recognize that you're forgetting the children. You're forgetting the children when you behave as children in front of your children. I said, you're forgetting the children when you're behaving as children in front of the children. Are they seeing you being an adult? What is an adult? Besides the age bracket. After the age bracket, it would be the ability to show maturity, to be developed, not only in physical, but mental and spiritual. Are you being responsible? I'll repeat that. Are you being responsible? Because your children are watching you. They're watching your level of emotional regulation or lack thereof. They're watching you during your episodes relating to mental illness. Those moments that you should do your best to experience away from their viewing. If you know that you are depressive and you have children, I suggest you Get it together. Okay? Because you're not the first one who's had depression. And you will not be the last one who's had depression. Whatever your diagnosis is, it's time to get it together. It's time to take your medication on time. It's time to go to the psychiatrist. It's time for you, those of you who are addicts, to go to rehab, to go to your support group meetings. Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and Twitter will be there when you come back. Your children need you to come back as mom and dad. Now, if I'm sharing this message, it's because someone needed to hear it. Because as much as I love children, I feel this is a very delicate topic. And I very rarely go into conversation with parents when it comes to raising their children. But there is a need to raise the vibration of humanity. And they are our future. And they need a voice. Is it possible to just focus on them for a moment? And that's a serious question. Are you doing your best? Or are you just around? Those of you that are. I'm doing my best to carefully go into detail. Although you have your freedom to do what you want to do, it's important for you to also prioritize, right? Yes, you need balance. Some of you can't live without a relationship. And that's okay too. But are you giving your children their time? Now, one of the things I like to share is we should consider the advice that the elders give us. Because although we sometimes misunderstand them, but when you look back and you notice how it was influential in how prepared you were in your parenting, you begin to have gratitude that you had someone who talked to you and gave your child a better chance at life. One of the things that I heard over and over and over again when my child was very, very young is that we need to just be focusing on them, right? That's what you would hear in the single moms group at church, and that's what I would hear from family members. And that's what I would see. Mothers of well-adapted children doing. And sometimes your circle is influential in your progress. I want to tell you, it's okay to devote your time to your child, especially those in their early stages of life. Because it will make a difference. Let me tell you something. When every teacher and every adult that you meet that has a conversation with you and says, you're doing a good job, that's telling me what I've done wasn't in vain. Although he is still young, you need to start from the beginning. All of this will be the foundation for his teenage years and his young adult years. And his adult life. Be careful what they hear. Those of you having back and forth with your significant others, words hurt too. And it's not only words that addressed to them that hurts, but words that are addressed to their parents. This is especially to those that are no longer with the other parent and take every opportunity to call that parent out of their name in front of the child. Be careful what they hear. Even if you feel the other parent did not do right by the child, allow the child the opportunity to recognize that themselves. This is advice that was given to me many years ago. And at the time, the person who gave me that advice had a son in college. She only had one child. But her son went away to college, and she would always give me insight on what she should have done so I don't have to do them and learn the hard way. Because she said, when you're calling the other parent all types of names, the child ends up being resentful. And standoffish to the other parent. And you don't want your child to lose a chance at love. So never, ever give them the impression that they need to see the other person in a negative light. And I feel very thankful that she said that because at the time my child was only 2. So obviously there was no conversations being had in relation to my opinions regarding his paternal parent. But the information was given to me right on time. And you know these things because when you do introspection and realize that some of your feelings were designed by the opinions of others. That woman also told me, if you ever do that, the child will resent you when they become an adult. Don't let the other parent win by trying to convince the child that I'm the good parent and that's the bad parent. Because when they don't have a good relationship with the child tomorrow, the child will not even recognize the dysfunction or the neglect from that parent, and will put it on you and say, you divided us. You told me this about him. You always said these things, and this is why I never had, and this is, And although that's not always the case, right? Not every child grows up and resents the other parent because they were talking about their dad or their mom. But it appears to be something that comes up regardless of how detrimental it is to your relationship, but it always somehow is brought up, and sometimes at the wrong time. So I'm encouraging you to do your best and try not to argue in front of your children. Try not to disrespect each other, especially in front of your children. Your children should not be hearing their mother being called the B word. Regardless, you laid down with her and made a child with her. And can respect her. Because when you begin to display these types of language, number one, the child will have an open door to utilize that type of language. And the child will be internalizing low self-esteem because they are part of their mom and they are part of their dad. So when you put the other parent down, it also affects their self-esteem. I'm telling you this because I know. There are some arguments that happen out of nowhere. And life does happen. Sometimes a boundary needs to be set. Someone needs to be checked. Right? But always redirect yourself once you've noticed what direction you're in. Be humble enough to take the child aside and say, do you see what mommy and daddy was doing? You saw that arguing? Well, that's not how we're supposed to communicate. We should be using our inside voices. And we should not be calling each other names. When you do that, it teaches the child what you wasn't able to demonstrate due to a heated moment. And you program the child to have healthy interaction with whomever she or he ends up with. And this is why I always say it is okay to say I'm sorry, even to your child. It is okay. Because we need to prioritize training them in preparation for the world. We need to stay focused. And there's nothing that I'm telling you that I haven't put into application. Sometimes it's not the child's father. It's another adult, right? Doesn't even have to be a romantic partner. But when the child notices or witnesses some type of dysfunction, use those opportunities to later on, whether it's later on tonight or later on tomorrow, explain the proper way of doing things. It would make a world of difference in how your child perceives the world. There are kids, yes, kids that have anxiety. Some have depression. Some even have PTSD. Confirmation. And this is because of their experiences, what they've witnessed. And although we hear many adults sharing how their childhood affected them and why it caused so much toxicity to develop in their lives, I want to make it clear that it is already taking effect during their childhood. It is even okay to go as far as saying, even if two adults are having an argument, that doesn't mean that they hate each other. Certain questions children have, but they don't ask. Certain assumptions children make that you're not even aware of. If you love that parent, you can even share, I wasn't happy with what he did or what he said because it made me feel this way. But I still love him, or I still love her. That would assist in making the child less affected by chaos, right? Because chaos leaves damage. And that's why I've done my best to avoid exposing my child to any back and forth, any belittling each other, any threatening, because I don't want him to grow up and disrespect his wife in front of his child. Because I want him to break those generational curses. And so, even if you didn't break it, you can be instrumental in the future generations. It's okay to go to counseling. Some people, especially those that attend church, only go to Christian counseling. In fact, I know churches that have counselors and offer them to the congregation, and everyone knows who they are. Everyone knows they have someone to talk to. Because some churches are more progressive than others, understanding the needs, the practical needs of people. Because we collectively need to be real, to take off our mask, to stop pretending. Because if we do that, especially in front of our children, we're teaching them how to pretend. And this is why some of you don't even know your children, because they were taught how to pretend at such a young age that they managed to pretend their whole life with you. And when some truths come to you, it takes you by surprise. Because you didn't realize that the child was hearing you. I'm being led to say something that was a bit of advice that was given to me by a church member. You know, I was having a conversation with her, and she was giving me some guidance. I think my child was maybe 3, if that. And she was saying that a lot of single mothers, see, she happened to be a single mom. And she raised her children. She had 5 children. And she had her first when she was 16. Long story short, when she was done raising her children, she went back to school and she got a master's. And was giving back to single moms. Advice she wished she had when she was younger. And she said, you see how single moms feel pressured to get married, even if it's not with the child's father, but with a man, period. Just a man in the household, period. Do you want me to give you some advice? She says, you don't want just a man in the household. Because just a man in the household can leave permanent damage, whether it is physical, emotional, or spiritual. What you need is an upstanding man, a leader, a provider, someone that takes your child as his own. I must be honest and say, I am who I am today, not because I was born knowing, but because I was always open to hear different points of view, different perspectives. I am always researching. I am always looking for guidance. Not necessarily from people. Some guidance comes from a book. Some guidance comes from meditation. Some guidance comes from an elder. But I want to encourage parents to understand that it is okay to accept that you don't know everything. That someone may inspire you to do something, to make a change, to let go of a vice, whatever it is, to influence you to be a better person and to be a better parent for your child. We need to stop competing and understand what is at stake. They are not only the future, but your future. If you don't raise them right, you can't blame them tomorrow. I remember a pastor sharing that he had a single mom, right? And he would always resent his mom because she would always be asking him, I'm sorry I'm giggling, but it's a little funny to me. Well, I'm not sorry. I take it back. It's okay to laugh. But he would resent the fact that she would always be asking him to do something. And disturbing him from whatever he was doing. Always asking for help to do things that she could do by herself. And she said, one day, he was with family. And sometimes people discuss, especially elders, they discuss their children, things about their children to the other elders. And one of the elders, his aunt, was complaining that her son doesn't do anything for her. She feels so alone. She wonders if she had a daughter, if things would have been different. And his mom interjected and said, "Do you want to know why so-and-so is that way?" And when her sister said, "Well, why do you think he's that way?" she said, "It's how you raised him." I raised this boy to always understand that it's give and take. That I do for him what I'm responsible to do. And he does for me what he can contribute and do. And this is why, as an adult, I don't have to raise him and tell him, this is how you need to treat your mother. Or this is how you need to treat your wife. And the reason why the pastor shared this is because he said a lot of single mothers have one child because that's enough to raise by yourself. But because you only have one child, you tend to do everything for the child, give everything to the child, sort of like to compensate, for other areas that may be lacking. And so I want to encourage you to involve them in the household, doing chores or having input. For example, this is something I do. Like, you go shopping and there are options. For example, between brands and between prices. And you ask the child, which one should we get? And sometimes you notice they're a smart shopper. They are getting the most affordable product. And that means you are doing your job. It's about training hands-on. Allowing them to take on responsibility. What you say. Be careful what you say. There are some parents that like to compare their kids. Well, so-and-so is the smart one, and the other is the athletic one. Or so-and-so is more intelligent than so-and-so. There are adults in their 50s that are still hurt by that. because it affected something in their psyche. It made them believe that they were not smart. Let me tell you something about me. I believe I was 25 years old. And I was having a discussion with a mentor. And she made the commentary that you are so intelligent. You wouldn't believe what my response was today. Because I'm very different from that level of maturity, right? Hopefully, we get better. And we know ourselves better. And we build in confidence, right? It shocked her so much to hear me say, I've never described myself that way before. And she said, why do you think that is? Well, my brother is very intelligent, right? And so he is stronger in his interests, and I am stronger in my interests. It just so happened that in elementary school, math and science is what was being graded. Confirmation is what was being taught and graded, right? But me, I'm a communicator. I love art and psychology and spirituality. There is no way, as intelligent as he is, can be more versed on those topics more than I. And there is no way, let me stress it, that I can say that I can teach and be comfortable with teaching high levels of math, right? More specifically, algebra. I hate algebra. You know, there's no reason for me to front. I have some things I love and some things I don't, right? But one thing about me is I like to challenge myself, which sounds crazy sometimes, because why take courses that you don't like? Because I wanted to prove to myself that I wasn't weak in that area. And so this is why some people, when they have something they're struggling with, they run away from it. And there are others that say, I'm going to stand up to it. And I'm not going to let this overtake me, regardless of how many tutoring sessions I need to pay for. Do you understand? It wasn't free. I had to pay for it. But I conquered it. That still doesn't mean that I am better versed at it as an algebra teacher. And because math and science was more what's the word I want to use? Regarded as how we rate intelligence in that stage of our life. There were times when I overheard. Sometimes they don't even say it to you. You know what I'm saying? They're just having conversations with another adult, you know? Sometimes just catching up on things or whatever. And I would always hear like, he's more intelligent. And because I would hear that, I internalized that, right? And so if you asked me to describe myself, I would go and say, I'm kind. I'm good at art. I'm a good friend. You know, things that come to me naturally. But people, do you know, at 26 years old, when that lady told me that I was intelligent, there was a part of me that healed. You know why? From that day forth, I described myself as intelligent. I never would say that before, right? But she awakened me. She awakened me to that. right? And this brings me to another memory. When there was a season that I was, I believe at that time I was working at a daycare. And there was a beautiful little girl, and her mom just so happened to be a teacher. And she was in my class because that time I had 1-year-olds. I've taught 1-year-olds. So I only had 5 students. And then when I had the 2s, I had, I believe 11 students. And, it has to go a certain ratio because of the level of care. And sometimes another teacher will visit another teacher when she's on break. So I might be in my room and another teacher comes in and, oh, I want to see Janine. I remember her name. I want to see, she's so beautiful. She's so beautiful. Some people had their favorites, right? And the mom said, I would prefer for you not to call her beautiful. And I looked at the girl and she looked at me like, what? Why would she say that? Or what did I say wrong? Or, and she said, I know you girls seem puzzled, but I'll explain. She said, I'm a teacher. And when I was younger, that's all I would hear is I'm beautiful, right? So I never knew I was smart because no one ever told me I was smart. She said it was until I met her father, right? I got to understand that I'm intelligent and I can do things. And he motivated me to go back to school. And that's why I'm a teacher now. I never forgot that. And yes, the child was just 1 year old. So it's not like she would register that. All she sees is a smile and someone coming to hug her. But she's like, that just was her parenting skills. Some people start raising the baby in the belly, reading stories or letting them listen to classical music and so forth. Like even before they take their first breath, It depends on how invested you are in it. And it depends on your relationships sometimes. And love. Love. So, what I love about my experience in teaching is the fact that I would get to see these kids grow up. Because I had Janine when she was 1 year old. And later on, when I went on and started teaching at an elementary school, I saw her. Maybe she was 7 or 8. I said, Janine. And I just knew it was Janine. And she looked at me like, do I know you? And I said, yeah. I said, I know your mother. I know your father. I know your big sister. And she said, how is that? I said, well, you used to be in my class when you was 1 year old. And she looked at me like, how in the world you remember that, you know? And I said, I just don't forget a face, you know? And it wasn't only her. I had many others. I had the opportunity. It's so funny to me that I could see a child at 1 year old, and then here you are in middle school, and you come in and I say, hi, Joshua. And you're puzzled. How do you know me? You know, it's a great thing to have the opportunity to work with kids, you know. There's so many stories, and you get to see so much growth when they go to high school. There are times that they want to stay connected, man, like even after school. But you have to learn boundaries. And even though, yes, you used to be in my class and so forth, you know, that's just our relationship. School. That's as far as I'm willing to take it, you know. I know some other teachers allow them to be on their social media and stuff. But to me, it's just related to respect. You know, certain parts of my life don't need to be your topic of conversation, especially if you were my student. So they are paying attention. And some parents are aware of how much affirmation develops their child or their children to be confident. And interestingly enough, when I met her, she was doing very well in school, you know? And she wasn't the shallow type. Even though she was like 8 years old, there are kids that are 8 years old that are already shallow. I know this. I've seen this, you know? And you could see she had her, you know, she had her head on right, so to speak. It wasn't just about appearance. It was about the entire package. That I'm doing good in school and I'm a good person and, you know, so forth. It was all done strategically. And although some people won't understand you sometimes in certain boundaries you set or certain disciplines you enforce. But you have to think about and focus on the greater picture and what's most important for you. So even though some may think you're funny or you're extra or you doing too much, whatever they say nowadays, do what's best for your family, right? That would include you. Confirmation. That would include you. Spend more time. That's why I always encourage you guys to learn something new every day. Spend more time in learning something new every day, right? Because what you learn, you have it to offer to them. And a lot of times when you are learning, they are learning at the same time and you don't even know it. Those of you that listen to like the history channels or nature, whatever it is, and the child could be there playing a video game and here you are watching something about history or science or whatever it is, just because it interests you, or the brain. Like, I like to learn as much as I can about how our brain works, and because as a teacher, it's very interesting to me in how you can be effective at helping people learn. And this is why I try to learn how to apply myself when it comes to different methods. How to make my point across. And how to keep their attention by disclosing what makes it more personal. So, I'm also encouraging you to continue to assist your children with affirmations. Tell them the truth. And I said that strategically because if you know for a fact that the child is lacking in one area, and you continue to tell the child that you're perfect in that area and you're great and so forth, that is not good for the child, because that is not reality. The proper way that I learned to do it is I like the progress you're making. I like your effort in this. You're motivating me to, for example, if the child's writing an essay and they're learning how to structure it, right? But they don't have it all yet. You're motivating me to write an essay too. That looks like so much fun, and that is one of the reasons why I appreciate the fact that I started in daycare when working with children, because there's a lot more training there. When I say that, I mean like ongoing training, workshop after workshop. And when you go to the classroom, it's basically after you have a degree and you're in there, I'm sure things are changing now as far as brushing up skills and being more effective, especially now that a lot more can be done virtually. And those are the positives in relation to the internet. But continue to give them affirmations to the point that you could see that confidence in them. You could see it in how they communicate, how they relate to others, Teach them to think for themselves, to not be a follower, When you do that, they don't fall into peer pressure like many of the others do. But it takes work. It takes time. It takes commitment. A lot of you are looking for commitment out of your homes. But are you committed to your children? Because balance is the fruit of the universe. I also want you to listen to your children. For example, I'm not telling you how to do it. I'm telling you how I do it. When something is out of order, right? I'm quickly stepping in right here, right now, and saying, okay, we need to fix this right now. And this has to stop right now. Okay? And you ever heard, I never thought I would have a child that's just like me. Let's just say, he has a lot of questions. Okay. And just like I have a lot of questions. Really? I have to do this? Why I have to do this? But I always have to remind him that, okay, this is how it goes. I'm the adult and you're the child. And this is how this works. And that's on period. And what I do is I tell him, not during a heated debate, so to speak, but I tell him, if you ever want to make me understand something, your point of view, why you think that it wasn't fair that I made you do that or not do that. Pay attention to me, right? When you see I'm available and I'm not busy working, I'm not on the phone, I'm not cooking or cleaning, I'm just hanging out, right? Come at me and tell me you want to talk to me about such and such. I promise you, you will not get in any kind of trouble, all right? And I'll give you an opportunity to talk and I will listen to you. And I'm telling you that that's been very effective, very, very effective. Because even though he may not agree that I say, no, you're not going to be playing on the tablet during the week, he knows that we will connect on this again. And I will prove why she should reconsider. It brings a lot of peace. It helps him to know that he has a voice. In fact, his voice counts. It's teaching him that there's a time and place. I already gave him the speech that I'm teaching you these things so one day when you have a relationship and your wife is annoyed and doesn't want to talk right then, right now, you can talk about it when she is calm. Pay attention to her. This is what to notice in the body language. This is what to notice in her tone. My child is very young. I'm already training him. He will be emotionally available to whoever he ends up with. He will also be nurturing. He knows to ask those that he loves every day, how are you? How was your day? How do you feel? He knows if someone is hurt, how to say, I'm sorry you feel that way. It'll get better. And he loves to say, pray about it. And to be honest with you, I didn't teach him that part. But he'll say, pray about it. And another cute thing he says, whenever he notices I'm, chilling, and he has something to say, are you available? I think that's so cute because he sees me and he double checks. And he's showing consideration. And I've noticed in healthy relationships, when there is a healthy relationship, your partner comes to you, gives you a call, right, during the day, or a text, or whatever. Yes, that's your love, right? That's someone you prioritize. However, when you hear the person say, are you busy? You have some free time? If you say, I'm working on something, and to be honest with you, I had to learn what healthy was. I had to learn that I don't have to stop everything I'm doing because you want to say what's up. You know what I'm saying? But that's because some people have strengths in some area, and so they're able to teach you things just by interacting with you. So although I never experienced that before, because many times you're with a grown-up who happens to be a partner who is very demanding. If he calls and you don't pick up, why didn't you pick up? What were you doing? So you don't have time for me right now? Some people are very codependent to the point where they call you and you're not available, and they make sure they don't pick up the phone when you call. Now, y'all know I'm not lying. Y'all know I am not lying, because that petty game is very real, right? And it feels more secure when someone respects that you have a schedule too. And although there's an open door policy, you can call me anytime you feel like it. Understand, I may say, I'm going to call you back. Or something really short and sweet. But the point is, I'm sure that when a person is like that, it's not because they were born like that. It's because they were taught that. Right? And this is why it is important to teach our children how to respectfully relate to others, to respect others, and to understand others. For example, yeah, we could have a routine. You can call me at a certain time, or I can call you at a certain time. But what if I want to take a nap? And I don't pick up the phone. Is there going to be an issue? Why didn't you pick up the phone? What were you doing? And, attitude and grouchiness and nah. It's not necessary. In fact, in a relationship, you should be able to feel supported in your interests too. You should be given encouragement, affirmation, support. But usually, this is taught. And this is why when you take the time to teach your children these different skills, later on in life, it'll get them far. Yes, it will. I'm pretty confident in knowing, okay, that there won't be ever a situation where someone that my child cares about will not know that they are loved, right? That they will not know that they are respected because I instilled it in him. And by no means that I mean to allow anyone to disrespect you. I make that clear as well, because we need to set boundaries. However, this is what people that love each other do. They share their feelings and they say, that made me feel this way. And when you love the person, and I kid you not, these are conversations I'm having with a child. Because I'm training him from a child. Because as I've shared with him, I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. But I want whoever is there for you to appreciate you. And see what I see in you. Right? That's what you do when you love your children. Child, I even go as far as say, you must work. You must contribute. This is your responsibility. This is the kind of relationship you need to have with money. This is how you need to budget. This is how you start a business. We've had all of these conversations. And this is why, again, I am confident that he has a good head on his shoulders. That he won't feel overwhelmed with the realities of life in the stage of adulthood. That there is more to life than teaching him how to be a player. I had to go there. I said I had to go there. Okay. Because I've witnessed men telling their sons why you need to have more than one girlfriend all the time. You should never have one girlfriend, right? And later on, when the wife leaves due to cheating, the child can recall how he was trained. If you're going to teach your children anything, it would be wise to teach them morality, how to have integrity, how to be trustworthy, because that will get you far. You see, there's a commentary that's made a lot in my family. It is not okay for you to reach where we reached. In this family, you must be greater. Do you hear me? That is what is brought to our attention while we are growing up. We already know you can't have less than this level of education. Period. We already know you cannot be living this type of lifestyle. Period. In fact, I had a cousin who made a joke that in this family, if we don't walk a certain way, we get disowned. I'm learning that that's a lot of pressure. But as an adult, you can handle that pressure. There are certain belief systems that I have presently because I know them to be true. That aren't necessarily good news. However, I have my human rights. And there are things about me you will never be able to change. And guess what? Elder, whether you're a cousin or, grandparent or whatever, there are things about you that I will never be able to change. But guess what? We can still love each other. Sometimes you just need to remind them, We can still love each other. Even if we agree to disagree. Even if certain subjects we will never discuss again. Because we already know where it's going to go. You understand? Boundaries. Because your life is meant for you to live it. When you don't give your children proper training, it affects them. in more than one way. Sometimes it could be the root of their destruction. So those of you that still have young children, please prepare them to be somebody. I'm going to say that again because it needs to be registered. Prepare them to be somebody. In fact, tell them to repeat after you. I am somebody. And make a routine out of it. I am smart. I am strong. I am resilient. I am love. The same way you can sit them down and say, confirmation. The same way you could sit them down and say, I want you to read this chapter, verse such and such to verse such and such, is the same way you can have them sit down and write positive affirmations about themselves. Or have them sit down and do a journal entry. Or have them sit down and write a letter to their adult self. What do you want to tell yourself as a grown-up to remember from when you were a child? People, some of them will be very appreciative that you've saved those memories with them. They will feel significant in your eyes. There's a comment someone made I will never forget. Never. Because I didn't even realize it until she said it. She visited my family home and noticed pictures everywhere. Now, this is a grown woman, okay? Grown married woman. A professional woman. An accomplished woman. A mother. And she made the comment, maybe I would feel important too if I had my picture all over display in my parents' home. And it makes you think that even later in life, that we still want, and pay attention, I said we, because this is a human experience, right? We still want validation from our parents because they matter. Okay? There are people you don't care if they think you're up or down. But the ones you love, you carry that. And I'm telling you, it touched me. Because, like I said, she's doing very well for herself. You would have never thought that was still unfulfilled. And those are the people I want in my life. Those are the people that's been there for me since day one. The real ones. The ones that are not competing. The ones I can go to and share my rude awakenings with. The ones that could say, I'm sorry, even though they didn't do nothing to me. I'm sorry on so-and-so's behalf. I'm embarrassed by being a fellow countryman of him. Appreciate those that are real. And raise your children to be authentic. Because nobody likes fake. Let that marinate. And in your households, grown men and grown women give your child an understanding that it's okay to be me. When you do that, you have to set the example. You have to be yourself. If not, you've defeated the purpose. They are paying attention. I want to take this to generational curses. It is very important in how you interact with others, especially when you have children. I'm noticing it more and more. That we are experiencing the sins of our fathers. Those of us that descended from womanizers, many times end up with womanizers. See? What you did to one person's child, someone else's child does to your child. And it's something that your child will resent, especially if they have the foreknowledge of your behavior and how you treated others. And here they are as a grown woman or a grown man. And then they have someone that is unfaithful to them. And they go to another relationship. And that same energy reappears. And they go to another relationship. And it happens again, to the point where they have to ask, what is going on? Why am I experiencing these things? Why can't people just be honest? Why do they feel it's okay to waste my time? Did your father waste anyone's time? Did your father lie and say promises that he knew he would never keep? And sometimes it's not even your father. Sometimes it's your grandfather or your great-grandfather. You know, that's why it's called the generational curse. And when you awaken to that truth, that karma is also inherited. that also assists you in healing. Because you say, well, it's not fair because I was honest. I didn't do anything. I don't deserve this. And then when you sit back and you think, whoever he did that to didn't deserve it either, huh? They didn't like how it felt either, huh? It's the day of reckoning, huh? Life is a cycle, people. Don't do anything to anyone that you don't want someone to do to your children. Because I've witnessed it where the karma hit the father and it hit the child and the next generation child. It happens. So as free as you think you are, remember, nothing's for free. And everything has a due date. Every debt has a due date. Don't be the reason why your children cry. Even if you're just part of the reason. Don't be involved in your children's broken hearts. Do your best. My recommendation is at righting your wrongs. Let me tell you something that I find impressive. I'm not saying that I'm a believer 100%, because I would be lying. But it's still impressive. There is an influencer who defines himself as a recovered narcissist. He says he used to be a narcissist, that he's not a narcissist anymore. And his attempt is to teach narcissists how to not be narcissists. You know? But those of us that have experienced the plague that a narcissist brings, obviously are still watching, so to speak. But that is his attempt to correct his wrongs in the universe. That is his attempt to remove some of that debt off his children's shoulders. I don't know if you follow. Your method of correcting your wrongs definitely do not have to be through speaking. Maybe it is through writing. Maybe it is through going to a support group and encouraging others. Actually, that is how I would recommend it. That you start by helping your peers. Being the change that they need to see. Respecting the boundaries that those that experience your abuse endured. Yes, respecting their boundaries, not pressuring them to communicate with you now, because I said now, because I feel that you need to now, because it would make me feel better if you do that now, because that person doesn't have to put you first. That person has to put their selves first. Let me just read you some of the spread. The first card is discontent and boredom. Pretty self-explanatory. The next card is you can do it. That's telling me that even if you don't have things your way, because your way is drama, because you like drama, because you've always been surrounded by drama, or toxicity, that you can release what is no longer in alignment with your highest good. You can do it. Even in the valley of discontent and boredom. Now, find it interesting. The next card says spouse. Wow, I'm getting a different storyline. This has more than one storyline, because when the relationship is done, when you decide enough is enough because you're discontent and boredom, and you feel the need to walk away, you're being reminded that you could do it. In fact, there's a next chapter. And for some, it will lead to marriage. The next card is new home. Moving is a step in the right direction for you. Sounds good. The next card is Law 44 of the 48 Laws. Disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. This is funny to me. And to me, how this can relate is the fact that sometimes the karma you receive is identical to the offenses that you made, to the point it is a mirror effect. Now, the disarm and infuriate means that the person that is experiencing this mirror effect is in that energy. And the disarm tells me that they have no power, no control over the situation. Mirror effect. The next card is authority figures. That's related to the law. Sometimes karma comes in ways that we will learn that lesson thoroughly. The next card is the 11th law of the universal laws. Law of rhythm. Cycles are a natural part of the universe. That's telling me that there are ups and downs. Seasons for you to be up, seasons for you to be down. And life goes on. Now, because I see the next card reversed, the solar plexus chakra card, that's related to your willpower. And that's telling me that the energy I'm receiving is that spell work is being done. To bring this alignment to your highest good. The next card is Torch. Enlightenment, knowledge, education, passion, sexuality. Adult in nature. Torch. Next card is Moon. There are secrets. There are still more secrets. A lot more to be uncovered. Wow. Following that is communication, answers, insight, knowledge, acquiring the answers needed. So there we go, folks. That is today's spread. My tip of the day is the same every day. Learn something new today. I am who I am in the eyes of God. Nothing more, nothing less. I am who I am in the eyes of God. Nothing more, nothing less. I am who I am In the eyes of God, nothing more and certainly nothing less. Keep pushing, y'all. Peace.